We're going to turn the streaming on. Excuse me, we're going to be turning the streaming on, just so you know. The microphone will pick up your voice. So I just ask that if you're going to say something, make sure you understand it could be public on the mic, just so you don't say anything about your neighbor or your friends or, you know, just a warning. So we're going to be streaming, starting the streaming. It's okay, you can talk. It's just the mics, this new system that works very well, and it'll pick it up. Hey, Chuck. Okay, I will call the Southbury Board of Selectmen regular meeting, September 15th of 2022, Southbury Town Hall, room 205, to order at 7 p.m. Can we have the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. First up is a presentation by the energy people, Chuck, for Soul Smart. If you would, Chuck. Chuck Liddy.
Is that working?
Takes 1 second.
Oh,
Yeah, try.
is it working now? The light's green. Oh,
I think
All
we're
right.
good.
so I'm here to talk to you about a program that we found recently to help attract more investment to the town, and particularly solar investment and energy storage type investment. And we had a chat with Jeff about this, and Ty from the Land Use Office, and Kevin Bielemeyer. And Jeff asked us to come and present this to the board so we could give you an overview of what it's about. I think you've all seen the material ahead of time. We had to cancel last time. And I do want to say Dave Solaz was supposed to be here tonight, but he's had a death in the family, so he was unable to make it today. Next slide, please. Oh, yeah, of course.
You're in control.
Can you speak into the microphone now?
Oh, thank you.
Just forward them back.
Perfect, thank you.
Try that.
Is that any better? Okay, wonderful. So Smart is much like Sustainable CT. It's a completely free DOE-funded program to help us attract more investment into town. And it's a certification program. It works just like Sustainable CT. There are bronze, silver, and gold levels on it. It's a national designation where Sustainable CT is only a Connecticut designation program. But what it does is it provides technical assistance to you free of charge to help you reduce what are called soft costs. So in the solar world, they talk about solar panels and all the hardware, our hard costs. Soft costs are the administrative costs that they need to, what they need to do to get a solar panel approved and permitted and implemented. All the sort of work, the way they work with the town. So the idea around this is to streamline your processes, reducing the barriers, and attract more solar investment to the town, incent the solar developers to come to town and put more investment in this community. It's also the idea behind this is to make it easy for our residents to put solar panels on the roof, make it easy for our businesses to put solar panels on the roof, and frankly, even the town, when they want to solarize their own installations, to make it easier. And it also has the advantage of making, by streamlining, it has the advantage of taking cost out of the operations of the town. Now, you see the tagline there, the MVCOG is actually become bronze certified at a regional level, but they report that communities that do this certification have reported a 62% increase in installations after they do that certification. So the nuts and bolts of this, it's a Chinese sort of menu. There are up to 70 different types of actions that you can do to earn points. Each action you do earns between 5 and 20 points. There are 2 categories that you're required to work in, those around streamlining your permitting processes and another around planning, your planning department. You can also choose to focus on some of what they call special focus categories. They consist of government operations, community engagement, market development. I especially was happy to see the government operations one on there because they talk about collaborating with the utility to help streamline your process of getting a solar installation in from the utility's point of view. You know, the utility is charged with keeping their grid safe. So, you know, what you have to go through to get a solar development in place can be pretty onerous, especially with a solar farm. So they have points for you working with the utility to collaborate and figure out ways to make that interconnection process more streamlined and easier. A lot of these actions are very common sense things that you'd want to do anyhow. They're things like being very transparent about what you need to do to get a permit for a rooftop installation versus, say, a solar farm versus a ground mount. A ground mount needs more planning approval than just a simple rooftop. So it's all about being very transparent, posting this stuff online on a town landing page so people can come and find it. Other examples are about financial incentives, right? Putting that on your solar landing page so you can come and see easily what financial incentives can help you as somebody putting on an installation. There's another one there on market development. They'll actually help you market yourself as a solar community and you know, ways to roll this out to the community in general. There are a fair amount of credits to be earned for helping low-income people take advantage of things like community solar. So there's a wide breadth, pretty much the whole gamut of what can go on in solar installations is covered by this. And what you get is you get free technical one-on-one assistance to help you through this. You get a big resource library, and you get access to best practices. This is one of the case studies. I think there's 400 some odd communities that have that have become certified under this program nationally. Connecticut has 10 of them. One of them is in Coventry. Coventry is a fairly analogous, at least from a rural standpoint, to Southbury. And this is what they chose to do. Out of all those credits, they chose to, you know, put an online process, permitting checklist process up on their online system, They reviewed all their zoning regulations for those that might either intentionally or unintentionally prohibit solar development. They did a lot of training of their staff. They streamlined the approvals for these small systems that, don't really require a lot of planning approvals. And they allowed smaller installations with, without special permits or hearings. So I think this is particularly important right now because what's going on in the industry is technology is rapidly evolving, and especially in the electric storage, battery storage area. And this is, this also covers those kind of installations. And there's a lot of new state and federal incentives for doing solar and energy storage systems. And, it's really tough to keep up with the technology that's changing, and we're going to see with all the new federal and state incentives to be doing this, we're going to see an influx of these coming into the offices. And, we're running with a skeleton crew already. I think it's, a smart thing for us to do. We talked a little bit, I've talked a little bit with Mark Cody, I've talked a little bit with Ty from the Land Use Office. They both thought this was their initial reaction was very good about this. Mark attended one of their webinars that I was on as well, and he said, boy, that was a good webinar. And I got to tell you, it was pretty technical. I grew up with a father as an electrical engineer, and it quickly went over my head. So that's just what he has to deal with, and this is best practices and technical resources to help him deal with that. So it can help us, proactively update all of our regulations. It can help us attract business. It can help us reduce costs. We in the Energy Task Force and Sustainable Southbury can help with this process. And I will say it's a much lower bar than Sustainable CT to achieve the certification. I'll talk about that in a second. But it turns out, and this is how I learned of this program, it turns out these earning SoSmart certification can also help us earn the next level, right? We're bronze certified in Sustainable CT. It can help us earn the next level of silver certification because you get some points for just doing SoSmart actions. So this is just the 3 different levels. You only need 60 points for bronze. You need 100 for silver and 200 for gold. And so, it's a much easier thing than Sustainable CT. So, that's pretty much what I wanted to go through tonight with you. You've seen the program guide. You've seen how comprehensive it is. There's a lot of detail in there. I actually have a copy with me if we wanted to put it up on the screen, but I'll just open it up to any questions or comments.
So Chuck, what's the next steps on this?
Yeah, thank you. So I meant to cover that here on this slide, but so the next steps are, we've already reached out to the organization and signaled our interests. We've gone through the process, and they'll take us on. So there's a resolution that needs to be signed, just like with Sustainable CT. It's a 1-page simple resolution just stating that you're going to devote some time and effort to this project. And after that, once you get underway, they assign you a resource. You get underway. They help you put up a solar landing page on your website, on your town website, which we'll work with Kevin and Gosha on anyhow. And after that, I think what we ought to do is talk more with Mark, and I think we ought to talk more with the planning person, whoever that's going to be, and get them acclimated to this before we go too much further.
Okay.
So you think this should wait until we have the new planning person on board?
Well, I think it's kind of a courtesy to do that at any rate. I don't know why, as a planning person, you wouldn't want to do this. Ty was pretty enthusiastic about it when we talked to her. Because she said there's a lot of these ones I don't even need to see. You know, these simple rooftop systems, you know, I just approve them pretty much. So having access to this kind of resource, I think would help anybody coming in. But, you know, if it were me, I wouldn't want the decision made for me ahead of time coming in. So
I agree.
That was my reasoning.
Get your thoughts.
I think too, part of this would make it easier for our staff when the projects come in to understand them and take some of the burden off of the process instead of a million questions along the way and checking on, that's my understanding, so that it'll go a little smoother for them.
Yeah, I think so. You know, Kevin he's done some of this stuff for us for Sustainable CT, working through GOSHA. It's relatively easy to put things up on your website. So, you know, to codify what it's going to take for a simple rooftop system versus a ground mount, you know, that'll take a lot of the mystery out of it for our developers. Now, I got to tell you, you know, we had a solar panel installation at our house fairly recently, along with an energy system, and that installer had to come back, make a completely separate trip back to install yet another meter on the house. He put up the required meters from Eversource to begin with, but along the way, the energy storage system required yet a separate meter in a separate location. So he had to make a special trip back just to do that. And I'm still a little mystified why he needed to do that, but he found it out late in the game. And if he had known this up front, you know, he could have avoided that cost.
Chuck, was that a meter requirement by Eversource or the installer, or was it the town?
No, I don't think that one was with the town.
Okay,
But-
so it wasn't,
No, I don't think we did that. I think that was, you know, actually, it just occurred to me, it was from the Green Bank to receive their incentive.
okay.
But, you know, the more we can codify and document these kind of details, then we'll know. And, you know, that's just the one thing that popped into my head. I'm sure there might be cases where it's less clear to developers. I know it probably, in a large solar farm, we haven't put one of those in before, right? So it'd be good to have access to best practices, should we ever want to do one.
So it would not just be the need of the town's requirements, but what I'm hearing, I think, is that it will be like, we've run into this where this individual needed, if you're going to put in this energy system, you're also going to need, if you're going with the Green Bank, that would be listed as kind of, so you know upfront what I would think the installers would know that.
Yeah, I would have thought that too. And this guy is, you know, one of the names that does a lot of these. And, you know, I think it's a golden opportunity to do that. And, you know, we would be assisting with that. And we would be in a position to bring it up if it doesn't come up. But I think that the flavor I got from the webinars and the research I've done is this is the kind of thing these technical resources will point out as you go through the process with them.
So is it that the industry, part of the problem is the industry is changing? I mean, it used to be solar panels, and now we're getting into battery storage. And is it trying to keep up with the industry? I'm hoping that this doesn't, if we do this, it doesn't just sit there, that it sounds like it's going to have to be kept up over time with the industry as it grows.
I think so.
Okay.
I think that's definitely true. But I think there's a lot we could be thinking about now to make that process easier, especially since we're going through the zoning regulations right now. Right, this would be another opportune time to be thinking about these kind of installations while we're doing that process.
Okay. Justin, John?
So for me, it sounds like a pretty exciting task. Being in the industry pre-COVID, I did a lot of permitting for solar systems, solar installations. One of the biggest problems they have is that there's no standards. So town to town, municipality to municipality, you end up with, do you need this checkbox or that done, or one versus the other? And there's so many different things to be looking at, different check boxes, different work that needs to be done, to have us, so this, to me, and correct me if I'm wrong, looks like it would be developing a standard
Yep.
where an installer would be able to look at the town standards. These are the 5 things the town insists on. These are the 4 that, you know, are for different size projects. And they see the checklist, they go through the checklist, and then the building inspector and the planning are all trained on what they need to look for. They just basically look at the plans, look at the specs, look at the details, and they know where they have to check the boxes, and it just streamlines the whole process.
Yeah, and every one, excuse me, every one of those actions has best practices associated with it. It has templates you could use, and of course, the technical assistance people. And it has case studies where you can go and look at what other towns have done. So, I mean, you've got it exactly right. It's all about streamlining. It's about training your staff and, you know, standardizing everywhere that you possibly can to make things as easy as you can, you know. And one of the things like Lost Over It in Coventry did is they put some of this online, some of the permitting process right online, so people could, you know, just get it done quicker and easier, and you collect more standard information that way as well.
I mean, from what I see, even in, and I'm assuming in Southbury, I don't know the numbers and stuff, but, you know, they're not doing, per the whole town right now, probably not doing that many systems. So each one is a little different, each one's unique. But even if the building inspector can just be trained up on what to look for, what's acceptable, he publishes that detail so that it's on our website. It just makes it easier for the installer, so there's no coming back. That's what we spend half the time doing, is going back to the building inspector 2, 3, 4 times to get that missing meter or get that. So if that's all laid out up front, it makes it not only easier for the installer, but then the inspector who's checking off the boxes, it's all done right, he goes and inspects it, no issues. So it makes it easier for all parties.
Yeah, everybody's happier. We're happier because we've done less work on the town, and, you know, they've been able to expedite their process and move on to the next thing.
Yeah, I'd be looking forward to it.
Chuck, can I ask, when you found you had to have that other meter, did that also require a modification or a change to the permit or another inspection?
I don't know, because Mark came out after it was all done. He had to wait till it was all done before he did it.
Yeah, just, you know, again, we try, you know, one of our goals here in strategic planning we've been talking about is efficient government operation. And, you know, it's difficult enough for building inspectors to make the calls, but if they had to make 2 calls for the same item, and you're really not looking to charge for 2 calls or another permit, but he had to come out at the end, which makes it, which is fine. I just was concerned about how, you know, this would help prevent that. You know, our idea, we're not there to run a money-making operation in inspections. We're there to get the inspections done so that we know it's done properly and the homeowner's has not been cheated and it's done correctly by specification and by the building codes. It's for the protection of the public in general. That's what it's for. You know, and as long as they only had to come out once, I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's all about health and safety, and, I mean, when you're fooling around with electricity, that's pretty important.
Okay, so we'll wait to hear back from you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Chuck. Thank you for your work. Okay, up next is our public comments, limited to 2 minutes. If anybody would like to make a public comment to the board, they're welcome to come up and give their name and make a public comment.
Good evening. Michelle Rosen. When my family moved to Southbury 9 years...
So, good evening.
Any other public comment? Any other public comment? Any other public comment? Okay, we'll close that portion of our meeting. Next up is announcements and correspondence, which you have. Special notice, the 85th anniversary of celebration of when Southbury said no to the Nazis. There'll be some save the dates are out there. If the board and the public could take a look at that and possibly participate in those dates, it should be a good turnout. You have your reports from the departments. I will say that there was there was actually a program in here today, in Town Hall today, about wolves, and the crossbreeding, and it was pretty well attended. I do want to say hats off to our animal control. They are doing a wonderful job communicating with with all the people in town on these things, and bringing these programs from the bear program to the dog, the wolf dog program. If I could ask for a motion to add to the agenda the hiring of Ava McKinney for part-time library assistance under new business. Can I have that motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Justin.
Second.
Seconded by, any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of adding it to the agenda under new business? Please.
Aye.
Aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions, and it carries. If you will give me just a minute to let, I have to send a text because we're moving ahead pretty quickly. Bear with me. This is for the, the attorney will be meeting us remotely, so I want to make sure he knows that he's going to be doing it. Next up is the consent agenda. Do I have a motion for approval of the consent agenda?
So moved.
Made and second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, and it carries. Minutes of August 18th, 2022 regular meeting. Can we take these together? Any objection?
Motion to approve August 18 and September 9, 2022 meeting minutes.
Can I have a second? Thank you, John. Any discussion on them? Hearing none, all in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, and it carries. Under new business, we have somebody who was accepted a position, and we got it on late on the agenda. This is for the position of part-time library assistant, not too big a deal. I have a motion. Do we have the motion?
Is there,
Okay, I'm sorry. I didn't know if you had it. Resolved that the Southbury Board of Selectmen hereby approves hiring Ava McKinney of Oxford as a part-time library assistant, subject to the successful completion of background and reference check and medical exam, including a drug screen, to be effective on or after October 9th of 2022. Can I have a motion?
Motion to approve the resolution as written.
John? Thank you. Any discussion on this? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, abstentions, and it carries. Under First Selectmen's report, the biggest thing I think tonight I have to report is that the rehabilitation of the two bridges, flood bridge is a month ahead of schedule and under budget. And I think because of that, they've been able to move on to the Heritage Bridge pretty quickly and focus on that with their crews. You know, it's kind of funny, someone called my office about nobody working on Flood Bridge, and nobody was working on Flood Bridge and what's going on. They worked on it enough to get it done a month ahead of schedule, so, and get it back open, and I'm hoping, I think Heritage will be opened up early also. So that's the good one, the good news. We are, just so you know, I don't know how, I missed something. Does the board know we're implementing Oracle Financials?
Yep.
So, interesting, I thought we were going to be the first in the state of Connecticut to do Oracle Financials. This is not the first in the state of Connecticut. We've been chosen to be the first in the United States to do Oracle Financials, which is a big, very big deal. So we are moving ahead pretty quickly, ahead of schedule. Interestingly, we can all be, from the Board of Finance to the Fiscal Office, Board of Selectmen, all of us can be pretty proud. I think they said that our processes are very clean and clear. Our charter is clear. Our purchasing policies are not complicated as I thought they were complicated, but I guess they're not. And our data, if anybody has implemented a system, that's what happens in my house all the time with what my family does. The data was very clean, and it was able to do a very good job. This Oracle system is about transparency in government and having access to where you're at in your budget at basically to the day. The flow of POs, I think our department heads are finding that it goes a lot easier and it's a lot smoother, and getting them done works well. So we're almost there. I think they're coming back next week. We've run a few checks, and I think this Southbury will be looked at again as a very well-run town, so you can be proud of that. Reports from liaisons. Does anybody have any questions for me? Justin, you have any report?
The only, one of my groups that met since our last meeting was the strategic plan, and we had a presentation from the Energy Task Force. We heard about SolSmart, we heard about potential microgrid projects, and, you know, there's obviously a lot of very interesting stuff coming out in regards to solar and other alternate energy sources right now. They're getting ready to work on the annual update of the strategic plan, and there'll be more to come on that over the next month or two. That's it.
Jason?
so EMS committee meets in a couple of weeks, LEPC met a couple weeks before our last meeting. Primary topic of conversation was the new emergency notification system, which there's been a lot of notice about on social media and emails to the town and whatnot. The town's transitioning from Code Red to Everbridge, and that'll be completed by the end of October. So I urge anyone listening to go online. It takes a minute to sign up for the new emergency notification system, and there's also instructions on lawn signs around town and elsewhere, so that's important. The library board met last night, and a couple of things. They're starting a strategic planning process as well. Ken Karen's going to come in next month and meet with them a little bit, and they're going to start going through that. Last night was their annual meeting, so they started a bylaw review, which they'll complete at their next meeting. They've been receiving applications for a poet laureate, and they have those, and they're going to be selecting one for the town of Southbury in the next couple of weeks. And there's going to be an event sometime towards the end of October, which we'll all get invitations to at the library. And two more things. It's National Library Card Sign-Up Month, so if you sign up for a library card, you get a little keychain at the library right now. But the biggest news, which was in our packet tonight, we accepted the retirement of our longtime head librarian, Shirley Thorson. So there was a lot of discussion about that, and they're planning a reception in their honor sometime in November. And we just thank Shirley for all of her service to the town throughout many, many, many years, from the old building to building the new building and leading our library, which is really, I call it the jewel of our town. Like it's, and there's a reason for that, and it has a lot to do with the people that work there. So that's what I got.
Okay, yes. Yes, Shirley is retiring, and she will be missed, but her work is well-deserved retirement for what she's done. Selectman Kuhn and Selectman Sullivan had things that had come up tonight. They were not able to attend. I would entertain a motion to enter into executive session. Oh, I'm sorry.
John.
Oh, I'm sorry, John. I apologize.
No problem. There you go. And I'll keep it brief. So let me get to the Parks and Rec for the Conservation Commission. So it's almost, I think, a little over a month since we met with them. They're basically keeping up their great work. Bennett Park, stabilization of the riverbank, working on some details there. Still talking about installing the grills there, and the treatment of the boards that they did at Janine Pierce Park, which was cleaning and revitalizing them, has held up pretty good through the summer. And then mowing the fields at Shorts Field is working out very well. And some conversation about the Little York Park, installing some guardrails and the kiosk entrance. I actually took a ride by there. It looked, the kiosk looks great. The guardrails, I guess they're serving a purpose to keep the cars from, but they are a little overwhelming. But exactly. The Parks and Rec, they had two kind of lively conversations. One was a little bit about the pool restoration work that we're talking about, and I think a lot of the commissioners haven't really read into the details of what the pool proposals were, and that they are part of the responsible commission, I guess, to review that and work with the groups that are involved. So they were making a bit of a commitment to at least read into it, find out what it's all about, and become more involved to help out. So as we proceed in doing that work, they'd like to be looped in on that conversation. And then a little bit of the conversation about the holiday lights that we've heard about, and the tree lighting, egg rolls, Easter celebrations, that they're getting a little overwhelmed with. They're about Parks and Rec and doing activities, and they like the idea that the Community Relations Task Force would be able to pick up on some of that workload to help what we heard about tonight, as far as make those events maybe a little bit more inclusive, maybe hear from other townspeople what could be wrapped into them to make them more of, whether they're holiday celebrations that include many more holidays, or celebrations of winter celebrations, spring celebrations. But that basically brings me into the Community Relations Task Force. So had our first meeting on August 29th. A lot of great conversation here. There were 6 or 7 folks from the public that came and spoke. So it ended up being some interesting conversation about the holiday celebrations and how we can maybe get together and work on some of those events. And then there was a conversation about the vandalism at Region 15 for the Black Lives Matters mural that was painted over or covered up. There was a recommendation of a recommendation sent to the Board of Selectmen to chat on a resolution that we would denounce vandalism in that effect. So hopefully that will be added to, or added to, their request is to make sure that's added to next Board of Selectmen meeting. And that's all I have to report.
Thank you, John. Can I have a motion to enter into executive session to discuss the settlement? Let me get this right. Resolved that the Southbury Board of Selectmen hereby moves to enter into executive session for the purpose of discussing negotiation of the pending litigation of Magel versus Town of Southbury, and to invite attorney David Monasteraski and Bonnie Rado into the executive session for such discussion. Can I have a motion? Can I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed, abstentions? We'll go into executive session. Thank you.